Here's a very interesting philosophical question, which one of you guys asked. Why is it that anime girls get censored a lot more than anything else? And more importantly, why is it that anime girls and video game characters which look like anime girls are considered to be hypersexualized even when fully clothed and even when appearing in positions that aren't sexual? So that's an interesting question. The first thing we need to realize if it's true or not. And I gotta say it is definitely true. We can see this when the Red Cross used a famous anime character by the name of Uzaki-chan as a poster for a campaign to convince people to donate blood. And while the campaign was very successful, it also created a lot of outrage coming from people in the West, which some of them said, I admire the work the Red Cross does, which is why I'm disappointed that Japan would run a campaign using the over-sexualized Uzaki-chan. There's a time and a place for this stuff, but this isn't. Hashtag V2, hashtag women, hashtag Kutu. So if you look at Uzaki-chan, there's nothing hyper-sexualized about her. I mean, she's fully clothed. She is just having fun. She's laughing. She's not in a suggestive position or anything like that. So why is it that Westerners consider Uzaki-chan to be problematic? And I actually thought about this. And I think that the reason for this has to do with the art style. You see, when it comes to cartoons, Western culture has a clear distinction between cartoons made for kids and cartoons made for teenagers and up. The cartoons which are made for kids, historically, have had a different art style than the cartoons that are made for a more mature audience. So a perfect example of this would be Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory or Olive Oil from Popeye the Sailor Man. These are cartoons that are explicitly made for children, and due to that, the art style is entirely different than the cartoons that are made for adults. In the cartoons which are made for children, you can notice that no matter how you would dress Dee Dee, no matter what clothing she would have, no matter what position she would take, it would not be arousing. Meanwhile, cartoons like Harley Quinn, which are designed to appeal to a more mature audience and are hyper-violent and they even have lewd scenes implied, well, the characters look a lot more human. They look a lot more mature-like. So there is a complete different distinction between the art style. And we don't notice this in Japan. In Japan, cartoons that are made for children, such as Sailor Moon, or Naruto, or Dragon Ball, have the exact same art style as anime which are designed for a more mature audience, such as Rental Girlfriend or Attack on Titan. In fact, in the West, the idea of cartoons is inherently as something that is more meant for children. Meanwhile, in Japan, the idea of anime suggests a wide range of stories that can vary from comedy to horror to action to romance, and they do not discriminate. So this is why a lot of Westerners are confused when they see a girl like Uzaki-chan. They would automatically think of cartoon, so therefore it is made for children, but instead of having Uzaki-chan look more like Dee Dee or Olive Oil, she actually looks anatomically correct. And it's the fact that Westerners are very prudish and skittish when it comes to the feminine form, so they find it unacceptable for a girl to be in shape as well as to have big breasts. The very fact that an artist has the audacity to pick up a pencil and draw those oppi is an abomination in the eyes of a puritanical Westerner. Why would he focus on those if the cartoon is made for a younger audience? It makes absolutely no sense. It's the evil male gaze that is looking at that piece of paper and doing the abomination, the abhorrent thing of drawing that opie. Now, despite the fact that the West tries to masquerade itself as multicultural, in reality it still has a very colonial mindset. It still wants to impose its culture upon other nations, which is very interesting because in the West right now, violence is not considered to be that problematic anymore. In fact, if you look at shows like The Walking Dead and the description that the developers of that show give in interviews with how they're going overboard in order to show all the gratuitous gore and violence on the big screen, is something that would have never happened 10 years ago. In other words, when it comes to violence, the West is a lot more open-minded and permissible. Meanwhile, when it comes to things that are more icky, the culture has stagnated and is exactly the same as it used to be 10 years ago. In fact, the culture is so prudish that a symbol of femininity, a symbol of female empowerment, which used to be Wonder Woman, with the fact that she could dress however she likes, is now considered problematic. So Wonder Woman had to be dressed all the way up in order to appeal to a more modern time. In Japan, however, things are entirely the opposite. In Japan, when it comes to violence, then the televisions are a little bit more skinny. In fact, one of the reasons you don't see blood in the new Dragon Ball Super was due to the hour that it was being released on television. Hours where a younger audience could be watching, and as such, the hyper-violence from Dragon Ball Z had to be majorly toned down. So while the Japanese are a little bit more skittish when it comes to violence, they're a lot more permissive when it comes to icky things. And as such, they do not hesitate to even add promiscuous jokes in anime which is designed for children. For example, there is a very famous scene in Dragon Ball, an anime that was designated for a young audience, where Bulma and Goku, traveling, share a room together for the night. And during this time, Goku has a major discovery, realizing the major difference between boys and girls. The fact that she has no balls is shocking to Goku, and this is supposed to cause a comedic effect. However, this type of joke is completely inappropriate and completely unacceptable for a Western audience. In fact, this joke was actually censored in the Western version of the anime. And you can find different jokes like this. For example, in the Powerpuff Girls Z anime adaptation, there is a scene where the Rodney Ruff boys are on a building and they're taking a leak and they are peeing on the people down below. Such type of disgusting humor would not be allowed to exist in the good old US of A. And the reality with this is that you are looking at two different cultures, and the West has its mask slipping off, showing that it's not really for multiculturalism and understanding. It is just about imposing its culture and its values over other cultures and other values, which is probably a fine thing to do depending on the circumstance. However, I find it hilarious to see that the enforcers of this are the same people that advocate for multiculturalism and diversity. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the comment section. Take care.